And it's time for They Talk Funny. My guest today is the fantastic Chris Finn. Chris has been a comedian and comedy writer. Damn, dude, 30 years you were grinding, 40 years you were grinding out. You've
Wow,
done
that is sobering to hear.
Yeah, there was what you've done. Well, you did the Halifax Comedy Festival Just for Laughs. You've written for Mad TV. You head writer for the Rick Mercer report. You did.
No, I wasn't a head writer.
Head writer?
Like, I think they called me
senior.
Like senior writer.
Senior writer.
I think just because I was older than everybody else. Well, maybe not older than everybody else,
You get the age d'or, the old age bonus onto your paycheck while you were working for the Rick Mercer report. You also, this hour is 22 minutes. Yeah, Corner Gas. You wrote for the Junos. That's a Canadian stamp. Like, you wrote for Brent Butt when he hosted the Junos in 2005, I think.
I'll tell you exactly what. First of all, you know what's funny about the music to your show? It slows down a little bit just before you come on. You know, it's got that like wah wah wah, and then it sort of slows down. You feel like, oh, I'm not well, and then it's like it throws you a little bit. It's like the band, like the metronome broke. Anyway,
yeah, it sort of explains why I do this. If anyone tuning in, you can just drop some comments. Make sure you hit the like button, and if you have any questions for Chris, put them in the comments, and we can add them up, put them on the screen.
I can tell you about the Junos. The Junos, it's funny you said that, because I didn't do anything on the 2005 or whenever it was Junos. What happened was Brent called me and he said, you remember a bit you used to do, like not on stage, just like when we'd just be like bumming around, you know, deli talk and green room and stuff, a thing about it'd be funny if a comic went out. This is when like the new Batman was happening and stuff. If a comic went out dressed fully as Batman, and he thought that was going to get him through some lame jokes just because he was dressed like Batman, like the hype would carry him, and he just like slowly bomb and sweat in this Batman outfit. And Brent and I said, I don't remember that at all. He goes, well, I want to do something like that in the Juno, so why don't you come out, hire you as a writer, and you can come out. And I did like 5 minutes of writing on that show, if you could call it writing. I think I said, hey, how about this instead of that? And the rest of the time, I think I was there for like 3 nights. We just like drank and got in trouble, had fun. It was really fun. And all the Tragically Hip were honored that year. And it was fantastic because I knew those guys a little bit. And so it was a mutual admiration society. It was a really fun weekend. It was a really great time. And Winnipeg rocks. So yeah, it was good. Yeah. Except Neil Young got really sick, right? That he had an aneurysm or something like that.
Oh,
he wasn't there.
Yeah.
We were all talking about, we're gonna be in the same room as Neil Young. I remember like, but no, he didn't make it.
I mean,
so that's the story of the Junos. There was no writing on my part whatsoever. It was all done when I got there. And it was just Brent being his generous, usual self, going, I want to do this bit that I think you came up with. I don't remember. Well, maybe I did. Sounds like something I'd goof around with.
Yeah, I also okay. First off, we have to explain. You're not wearing those glasses to be in color theme with the show.
No, it's very bright. These are prescription of I can't find my other ones, and I know they look like it looks like I'm about to demonstrate a Les Paul or something, but it's not. I can see everything with these. Sorry that they're. I look like a bit of a Georgia cop thing. You step out of the car, please, sir. You got a bit of a. It's not meant to be anything.
They look great. We just wanted to anyone tuning in, make sure they realize you're not being an asshole by wearing sunglasses.
No, I'm being an asshole in many other ways, but not the shape.
It's skills. You got skills. You got to use them. But you mentioned Brett Butt with how generous he was. Corner Gas. You have writing credits for that series.
Yeah, I wrote two of them, like the first couple of seasons, and yeah, it was really fun. I mean, it was sort of uh, like they had such a great writing room there. So that kind of thing is you write a. They sort of gave me the idea, and then I wrote a draft, and then a second draft, and then their writers' room took over. I think the second one I was a little more involved with. That had like the hip was in that one, I remember. And then I think season 6 or something or 5, I went out and I was in one, and that was really fun. I played like a greaser.
You had the hair for a good while.
I did.
My image of you of stand up is probably it's sort of frozen on that Halifax Comedy Festival Just for Laughs, that arc with the leather jacket and the hair greased back with a little mini pompadour. And
Yeah,
just
I was
the attitude.
very. I dressed like that anyway. I was really streety back then, I must say. Yeah, I don't know what that was about. I honestly don't. I think when you're younger, you can do that kind of thing. Like I was sort of genuinely angry all the time, and then you get older. I'm in my 50s now. If you're angry, you're just an old angry asshole. Like you gotta chill out. Like young and angry, sexy, old and angry, demented. Because I don't have anything to be angry about, really. I mean, other than obviously the world, other than everything in the world right now. But personally, it would be unseemly if I was a bitter, angry, sort of thing. Let go of that. I don't have the, I don't have the stomach lining for that anymore.
Now here's a thing that you constantly hear non-comedians saying like oh, Trump or the world events right now, comedians must be so happy that there's so much material. I that makes me cringe. Like is there any point that you like wake up in the morning, you'll read the newspaper, you see what like is happening with COVID, with Black Lives Matter, with Trump, and you just is there any point it makes you not want to cry and makes you want to write jokes again, or gets you to focus that anger?
I think the first couple of years that he was president, I was writing jokes about him. I because it was so easy, and it helped sort of deflate the tension of having this guy as the president of your downstairs neighbor, But I think because of working in mainstream satire for years, that following the news every day religiously, I built up a pretty thick skin about what I read, and I'm surprised at the incredible tailspin of wrong, that they're just not correcting in the United States. We've seen them fuck up before, but not in such a way that I don't know if they're ever going to be able to fix this. I don't know if 1 million people are going to die down there, from COVID and stuff. And obviously there's changing news cycles about everything else too. So I watch less CNN than I ever did, and that's for sure. Because I do find the media generally, no matter what their political stripe, sensationalistic these days.
Right. And it probably goes without saying that you're not watching Fox either.
I will watch Fox because it's important to know what people you disagree with politically think. And I won't watch the Tucker Carlson and stuff like that, but I'll watch right-wing news because it's important to know what they're thinking, and it's funnier.
Yeah.
I mean, not in the real life sense. It's more tragic, ergo it's funnier. But I'm really not into groupthink and the whole kind of I have an opinion, so you're wrong kind of mentality that seems to have taken over everything. It's very important to keep people you don't agree with politically close, I think, unless they're, Richard Spencer, I have conservative friends. I'm not, agreeing to disagree is a skill we can't lose.
Yeah, exactly. Communication must be kept open, and I think it's great the fact that you are watching like Fox News, so you're aware of what their fears are. That way, when you do interact, you have the ability to diffuse
You know
some
what
of
their
their
biggest fear
talking
is? It
points.
seems to me their
Yeah.
biggest fear is poor quality pillows. Because that pillow guy, man, like it's hard to not think he has his own show on Fox. But there's something about betting that the right are very, very concerned about. Maybe it's the bunkers. Maybe it's the fear that immigrants will steal their finest linens. But they are obsessed with betting and that weird flex tape. But CNN are obsessed with that too, because you might want to cut your boat in half someday. So.
Yeah, exactly. Just to let certain family members float off. You actually you bring up a little bit of a point when you mentioned Tucker Carlson. One of the things that I don't get is Fox News is owned by 20th Century Fox, which is owned by Disney, and Disney has come out saying that they are no longer going to advertise on Tucker Carlson's show. Don't they have the power to like fire him?
I think he has such a loyal following that I'm sure it would be detrimental to their overall ratings. You know, they just talk a good game, right? Oh, that's just a way of saying, oh yeah, we don't like this guy either. You know, who knows what kind of contract the guy has? He'd be signed for 100 years. I don't know. Like I don't watch that stuff. I'll watch like if there's like a big American story, I'll switch back and forth between CNN and Fox for a while just to see like they're both. First of all, I do it because they're both great for jokes.
Yeah.
I always sort of felt that about Canada's newspapers too. It's like I would always read The Sun because it had the funny, and then I would always read the Toronto Star because it had more comprehensive centrist, you know, liberal leaning things, and then I'd read the Post because it was all we don't care about anything, just tell us about the money. So you had this sort of like balance when you were working on the Mercer show. That was always, but the Sun would often just give you the funniest angle. You wouldn't have to think at all.
So that would make it an easier thing to write. Now you wrote was it 15 seasons on Rick Mercer?
15 seasons, yeah. Wow.
So how
I missed that gig. I do. It was good. It was a good gig.
Now it's been a while since I've seen you perform. You've mentioned that you're only performing a couple times a year, only when people call you up specifically to come out.
Yeah, and it shows. It really shows. I stink now. I'll just go out with a page of jokes, and then I do have the laziest stand up in the world. Also, nobody wants to hear from a 58-year-old old dude. Like I feel that when I go to clubs, it's like which is rare. But there's a couple of rooms I still really like. I like Kevin and Carolyn's room, Hirut on the Danforth.
Okay.
That's a great room. It's like comedy done in the back of an Ethiopian restaurant or Eritrean restaurant. And the owners are these really cool people who fled, their country and they're big comedy fans because it's free speech.
Right.
And I still like the Rivoli, even though it's like a hard room to play. Like Lauren Perlmutter is always like drop in anytime we do a set, and that's really nice. Yeah. And so once a year I'll go down and I'll do the big "I'm back, baby," and then you do a set and you just forget to ever go do it again. And it's fun to watch younger comics. And like I sound like very, very old now, but like the confidence level, unfucking believable. Still, most of them don't have any jokes, and it's all just sort of they're saving on therapy. All due respect, but I think the biggest people always sort of say difference between older generation comics and younger generation comics. I mean, there's lots, but the other one thing I really notice is I think most younger comics now, their parents are behind them in this. They're like supportive,
right? Yeah.
My generation was like, nah. It's like, yeah, okay, it's your hobby, but what else are you going to do? Like it was still such a rock and roll thing to do when I started. It was very unusual.
I think that's why you dressed the way you did. Tracy Rideout saying it's nice to see you guys and that she loves Hirut.
Yeah, it's a great room.
Yeah, you definitely had that rock. You had an attitude while you were on stage. Yeah, you had sort of like like being
All good,
30
I think
something.
good
You
comics
had
have that. I'm not calling myself a good comic, but that's a super important thing to have. Is attitude is huge. You have to have a character,
yeah
whether it be subtle or whether it be emo Phillips or Barry Steiger, who is next to no character, right?
right.
That's something you really have to hone. You just go. I see a lot of people starting out just go out and blurt. It takes a while to find
Your voice.
who you're comfortable with. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
sure. I
yeah.
mean, when I was starting out, I was Seinfeld. I would just copy guys, and I think a lot of people do that, And then you find out a little bit about how to sell stuff, you know,
As
uh,
you
as you, or yeah, and something that frankly, keeps you entertained.
Exactly. I always find it's better if your joke is something that makes you laugh, and remembering why it made you laugh every time you retell it is key. Who were your influences though when you started out? And if anyone has any questions, they can just drop them in the comments, just like Tracy did.
Well, guys like, guys I worked with mostly. I think I learned mostly from. I mean, when I was a kid, like before I got into stand, I was like, I loved Don Rickles.
Yeah.
I really liked Phyllis Diller, and I'd never seen him, but my parents, I think, had a Lenny Bruce album, and there was a book about Lenny Bruce. So Lenny Bruce was a big influence. Um, you know, sadly, I think,
Sadly.
because I think he is so unique and original that, that it would be hard to be any kind of truth teller on that level. But like starting out clubs, guys, Mike McDonald,
Yeah.
Pat Bullard, Lawrence Morgenstern, Ron Vaudry, Jim McAleese. Yeah, guys like that they were huge influences on a lot of guys starting out, and yeah, I mean, the Ottawa scene that I came from was very interesting because I got in at the right time. Like our open mic was Norm Macdonald, Jeremy Hotz, although Jeremy had kind of graduated before anybody else. Me, Angelo Sarukis,
Yeah.
Lisa Gay Tremblay, Brad Lyons, the late Brett Weir. There were it was an interesting time to come of age.
Yeah. Judy Croon would have been a little after.
Judy didn't come out of Ottawa, I don't think.
Oh, okay. I know that she
Did
was
she?
based out of Ottawa. She was based out of Ottawa for a while. She was doing radio out of Ottawa.
Oh, maybe, yeah. I
And
think I
maybe
had
that's
moved on by then, but yeah.
yeah.
Well, then, Tom Green started at
Yeah.
Ottawa, and, Rick Curry, Jim McNally, a lot of good comics came out. Probably forgetting people. Yeah, it was an interesting time to come of age. It was good. Yeah.
I always think of each city sort of having its own flavor when it came to comedy, and Ottawa definitely seemed to have the original voices. Like there's no carbon copies of each type of comic coming out. I mean, like yeah, you had Tom Green, then John Doerr's coming out. You've got
John Doerr, yeah.
all these guys that are like so
Doing
not
really
just
well.
different from each other. Yeah, but they're not just different from each other. They different points of view. It's not, and it always made it such an interesting show when you see different comics with different points of view on stage. And I think sometimes I miss that when I go to a show and it's all the same all the time. But I don't know how.
Yeah, I should watch more comedy. I should get out and stuff like that. But I mean, it's a format that the format hasn't changed that much, really. I think the only difference was in the '80s and early '90s to a degree. That period between like '85 and '93, it was still really novel. Like people were just, we were going into small towns in the East Coast or out west or whatever, and like no one had ever done stand up in these places before. So they were just sort of like, if the gig was set up right and everything, they were just amazed that anybody would get up there and have the balls to do anything like that. Like, so I think that bought you a little bit of time. I mean, you could play places that you wouldn't stop in and have a beer at, like rough joints, and you had to go in and own them. But it was like, hey, it's just a great thing of Canadians share that. It's like You're here to do a job. We're here to listen. And I don't remember. I know guys had nightmare stories, but I never. I mean, bomb occasionally, but I just remember it'd be such a gentle bombing. Like a lot of, you did your best, kid.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't like, you got beat up and stuff like that.
It's also how Yuck Yucks sort of built the brand for them is the touring. I mean, they took young comics, they put them on the road cross Canada.
And you learned. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
But it's also those communities learned. Like for somebody in Hansport, Nova Scotia, Yuck Yucks was synonymous with comedy club or comedy night. So if they ever went to Toronto, they would seek out the Yuck Yucks rather than Laugh Resort or any other place, because to them, Yuck Yucks was comedy.
Well, it was also a certain style of comedy.
Yes.
Body and outrageous and things like that. Not everybody, but it was a bluer style. I think you kind of, you had to work a little like that in some of the one-nighters, but it valued that kind of comedy, I think, more than other stuff.
Yeah, it's also the little one-nighters, they had no other option so when that's what they're presented with, that's what they thought comedy was.
Yes. Which is, has its own whatever, it's not.
It's a feedback loop.
Yeah.
The
Laugh Resort, though, I mean, you mentioned the Laugh Resort. That club, the old Lombard Street Club, I think was, if anyone ever writes a book about the history of comedy in Toronto, that place should get a special chapter, because it was at a time when so many different acts came together. And it was the first time I noticed where people from both Second City and stand-ups sort of merged and, sniffed each other out and didn't have those old prejudices against each other and stuff like that. Because it was weird before that. I mean, it was always, stand-ups were always like,
sketch or
well, we thought of it as dinner theater, and a lot of people at Second City thought they invented comedy, so it was like a natural kind of barrier.
We just froze for a second. We'll give this a moment to come back. There you are. I can hear you.
Hi.
Yeah, we just had an internet dropout for a second. You were just saying I think you were just right at the peak of your analogy of how the Second City people were looking at the comedians
or the stand-ups. Like I think they thought we were all like work strip clubs and we all had coke habits, and it was all like that we were dirgish and they were more polished and actors, and it was probably true, I guess, but I think we made a lot more money than them. Well, they got all the good commercial auditions too. I remember that.
Yeah, but that was kind of how you guys were able to afford the cocaine and strip clubs.
That's right. Yeah, it was all. Yeah, it was complete mayhem. Yeah.
I'm actually I've actually played 4 different strip clubs.
Wow,
doing stand up.
Impressive. I only ever did one.
Yeah, really.
In the very early days in Trenton, and it was, it was a really good gig. I gotta say,
I'm not counting burlesque, because getting a chance to perform at a burlesque show is amazing.
You bet you look good naked.
I do.
You meant jokes? Oh, right. Okay. Sorry.
I deserve that one.
You walk into it.
Yeah. That's why I got a broken nose. You now are you still writing as much? Do you write recreationally, or are you writing with a goal right now? I know that you're only occasionally taking contracts, but I work whenever I can. I don't I'm doing fine. Right now I'm part of a development team. We're waiting back to hear if a project that we got off the ground is going to be greenlit. That's what every writer is probably doing this summer. And, we don't know with COVID what the lay of the land is going to be with networks and stuff like that. I mean, there's only really one, network in Canada anyway that sort of does Canadian stuff. So there you go. Don't be like Bell Media say they do, but all they do is buy reruns of American stuff. How they get away with that, I don't know, but they do. Yeah, which is the sad future. This is probably why. Now, actually, this is a great time to lead in. You actually had your chance to go to the States.
Yeah,
You
I had a cup of coffee in the States. I worked on Mad TV for like a year.
uh, you had
Yeah.
a I believe it was you that had a story about how you felt uncomfortable uh, in your evenings after writing, like the fact that you could hear gunshots. Uh,
Oh, you know what? I lived in LA when, well, you didn't know if they were gunshots, but I do remember a couple of incidences that were really, we were there when, remember those Russian guys in North Hollywood went nuts and they had the flak gear and they robbed a bank and then there was a giant shootout. It's what they based the movie Heat on, that whole thing. It was crazy. And we were all in the writer's room, me and like Blaine Capatch, Patton Oswalt, the late fantastic Lauren Dombrowski, and Brian Hart and Gary Campbell, and we were watching it on TV as it happened. I'll never forget this. The news guy said, more helicopters are on the way. And as soon as he said it, helicopters went over the studio, like really low. And we all looked at each other and went, wow, I guess those are the helicopters. But like we were all watching when the guy turned the gun on himself and stuff like that. Like I lived close to the studio. I walked to work, but there are. It's a weird town. The cliche is LA is Detroit with palm trees. There it is. There's a lot of tension there, and when you're just a Canadian kid, like I'm from the East Coast. I grew up in Ottawa. Wasn't really used to that. I like LA a lot, but I didn't. I came back. I didn't. I ditched the second part of it, and I flaked out and didn't stay on a second year. And
yeah.
I came back and started working on 22 Minutes. I was lucky to get that. If I had to do over again, I probably would have stayed in LA. But I was homesick, and my girlfriend was here, and it wasn't it was a good emotional move. It wasn't a good career move, but sometimes you split the difference.
Yeah, it's in the long term, you do want to make sure that you do the good emotional moves.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was a
yeah,
valuable experience, though. I wouldn't trade, not just because I don't mean just money, but like to learn how to write,
yeah,
to learn how to write for television, and like to drop all that armor. Although it took months to drop the stand-up armor of being defensive about your material. And now I work with younger comedians, and I watch and I go, oh my God, you're doing everything I did when I was starting. You got to knock it off. Writer's pride, all that kind of stuff. Like, who changed my work? It's like, I did. I did. I did, because nothing leaves your printer and goes right to air. That's why.
yeah. Humber is like, well, close enough to Toronto, so there's a lot of
Yeah.
bleed through into the comedy rooms, etc. And a lot of the newer comics in Toronto are going through that program. What are your thoughts? Have you ever guest lectured or?
No, they've
Uh,
never. Well, I guess that would be, who is that? Yuck Yucks?
Yuck Yucks does a development program with them, but I've
See,
seen it.
they'd never asked me to do anything, so I don't like that would be a thing. But no,
Yeah,
they've never asked me to, like, people who have like asked me to speak at various things and stuff like that. Frankly, I don't have much of an ego, but I will say they're idiots not to ask me. I'm easily one of the more experienced guys in the country.
yeah.
But enough about
That's why I asked you.
me.
Definitely.
You're asking, yeah, but you like, what am I thoughts
Oh, you just dropped
on?
out when you just said I was one of your something. I'm gonna assume favorite people. There's a. Oh, I think you're back. No. I think we are losing the connection with Chris Finn at this point in time. I can hear
There we
your.
are.
There you are. All right, cool. You cut out there for a second. And I almost felt like you were about to give me a compliment, but I'm
Huh.
not sure. Uh, I do
You
go.
look like you've lost a little weight.
I've
That's my
gained a hell
compliment.
of a lot, actually. Actually, no, my weight has always gone up and down. So
Oh, the COVID.
the
Yeah, I got
COVID
the
weight
COVID.
pack is happening.
Yeah. Me too.
I just got a good camera angle.
Yeah.
There's in full disclosure for everyone, when I had a radio show, my very first in studio guest was Chris Finn, and that was before he got to write for Mad TV. Before he was writing for This Hour, he came hot from a recording of the Halifax Comedy Festival when some I don't know if it wasn't the line producer, but there was a assistant director or something threatened you to kind of try to get you to censor your material, to not say something that you weren't planning on saying in the first place. So there was a bit of emotion that was happening. They asked you
Well,
not
it's
to be
Halifax.
the
It's like a
CBC
Halifax Friday night is all that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, I remember that Jack Kellum, who's a great guy. You know, he was like, yeah, I think there was a little bit of Halifax and what they would call Upper Canada friction. But it was, yeah, I made a joke about the CBC and they got their knickers in a twist and I did it anyway. And I ended up getting a job on 22 Minutes because of it, as a matter of fact. But Halifax Festival is fantastic. That's my favorite festival in the country. I always like doing that one. I don't think I ever did the Winnipeg one. I was sort of like long out of stand-up by the time it sort of came around, and just for laughs and stuff. But you were talking about Humber.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we had mentioned like the fact that Humber's pumping out. If you were to like add a course or have a lecture or a piece of advice to newer comics coming out of Humber, since you see them, because you still occasionally go down to watch shows.
Yeah.
What
Not
would you
as much
be?
as I should. I would say that's funny. I thought about this a little while ago. I'm not one of the like sort of comedy people who snubs the Humber thing. You know, a lot of guys my generation and stuff are like, you can learn that, man. You got to go. You got to pay your dues, man. Like, I'm not really that guy. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. It's
Am I gone?
Yeah, I just heard the.
Oh, okay.
You got to pay your dues, man. Your impression of you're not one of those guys. That's where it kind of cut out.
Yeah, I'm not really one of those guys. But to your question, if I was going to give anybody a piece of advice, or if there is a class at Humber, that there should be a class, it's never forget how to bomb. No matter what you're doing, no matter whether it's stand-up, writing, auditioning, anything, you're going to bomb for the rest of your life at some point. It could be a big gig. It could be a lousy gig. It'll be when you're least expecting it. It'll be a script you sure was great and it tanks. And that is, to me, that's the ultimate discipline of any comedy, is that never forget that knowing how to bomb is the most important thing ever.
Yeah.
And look at Johnny Carson. The man made a career of it.
Yeah.
Nobody bombed funnier than that guy.
So much of his humor was in the saves that he would do.
Yeah, I mean, and it's just knowing that that can be. And it goes back to a guy like Lawrence Morgenstern we were talking about. Nobody was funnier. I've never seen anybody funnier than when he wasn't getting laughs than Lawrence.
Yeah,
because the way he got mad at the crowd just made him hysterical. And you would hope for your own sake that he wouldn't do well, just so you'd be at the back laughing at more. I mean, it's great when he killed, and he almost always killed, but when he didn't, there was nobody funnier.
Yeah.
Pat Bullard too, I would say.
I think we're getting your video is getting a little choppy, and I'm worried that you're going to cut out again. I definitely want to thank you for coming on.
Okay.
But I think one of the things you said just before you cut out is that you're not going to comedy as much as you feel you should right now. And whereas you're not performing as much, it's the fact that you think you should be down there and watching the new comics and seeing that to me shows me how much love you have for comedy. And that's that's such an important thing.
Yeah, it would be pretty bad at this juncture if I was like, I don't really like it. that would have taken a long time to figure out. Yeah.
There are so many people out there who are comedy professionals who hate it, who seem to hate it, or at least hate part of the process. And
well, I think there's a lot of business stuff you can hate about it. I mean,
yeah.
I didn't like the way things were set up in Canada. I don't know anybody who did, but I look at myself and I'm not really in the stand-up business anymore,
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's funny. I still meet people who introduce me as a stand-up and stuff, and that's fine. But I think it's a bit of a slap to stand-ups. I mean, it's such an valued and under-respected form. People toss it like, and there's so much stand-up now. It's like, oh, my uncle's a stand-up. Oh, that's great. Like people toss it around like, it reminds me of like, bring up therapy. People go, oh yeah, well, I know lots of people in therapy. It always seems like stand-up is the new sort of therapy. It's like, oh yeah, I tried stand-up.
Yeah.
like, oh, did you? Like, for what reason?
Yeah.
Like it was supposed to cure them or something like that. Which I don't know if they teach that. I don't know if that's a thing where, how like in improv, there's a corporate element, right? Improv people go there and they teach corporate people how to not be afraid in front of groups and stuff like that.
Right.
I imagine stand-up has the same kind of thing. I don't know if that's a Humber thing. I don't know if they do that there. Yeah, but I don't know. I think the world would be a lot funnier if they just let corporate people bomb. Why should they get the benefit of confidence? It just bugs me.
Screw you, Toastmasters. There's
whatever. Yeah. Or hire a comic. How about that? Stop doing it yourself.
Yeah.
We get Ted from A Division. He's a riot. Why pay someone $1,000? But yeah.
Okay. All right. Then, damn it, I'm not. I want to talk to you so much, and now the screen's clear, so I'm keeping you on. What's your take on CASC, on the Canadian Association of Stand-Up Comics? I know that I think you were one of the road warriors that helped kind of lay the foundation for people. I mean,
I don't know about that. It was a long time ago when we all like the Blacklist days and stuff like that, the Resort and Yuck Yucks, which I can barely remember, but it was a great time.
And there we just, it cut out right when you said it was a great time.
Okay, so what I said after that was CASC is more serious than what we were doing in the late 80s, early 90s. Also, there's thousands of comics now, as far as I can tell.
Yeah.
So they have a chance to actually have a union. I would say, I only met Sandra once. She seemed very, very nice. It was at a very awkward evening too. They do a night where comedy writers and watch comedians and then sort of lampoon them.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Found it real.
And again, we're losing you at this point.
Okay.
This channel sort of survives on people's donations, but I'm not asking for donations. We are saying to donate in the name of George Floyd to any of the worthy causes that are happening right now. The bailfund.org is in the States, but it's helping bail out people who are protesting with the Black Lives Matters protests. If you can find anything, if you can make sure you're supporting Indigenous peoples of Canada's businesses, make sure that you are making sure that they are not being forgotten. These are things we got to do to make sure the society moves better. And I want to thank you, Chris, for taking the time to chat. It was a pleasure catching up with you, man.
Yeah, I didn't know you were in Montreal, but if I get down to that town, I will look you up.
Yeah, and if I see Gord Disley before you do, I will definitely spread some love towards you.
Absolutely. Say hi to everybody in Montreal. It's a great city.
I will. Chris, it has been it's been a joy. Broadcast is ending, and it's